My name is John Herlihy, and this is one of a series of webinars on Community National Schools, or CNS for short, produced by Kerry ETB, where we discuss what a CNS is, how they operate, what they offer, and why a community national school could be the right choice for your child. So from our experience at Kerry ETB, CNSs, or community national schools, are inclusive. They offer small class sizes, a unique curriculum, and above all, a welcoming environment for your child. So in this panel discussion, we're focusing mostly on the experiences of parents who have children at a community national school run by Kerry ETB. So we very much look forward to hearing their thoughts, their insights, and their advice over the next 35 minutes or so. And as we talk, it's likely that you'll have questions of your own. And actually, we have a good few questions in already. To submit your question, you use the Q&A function on screen. We're not using chat on this webinar, only Q&A. So that's that button at the bottom of your screen. Click the Q&A button, a little floating window will pop up, and you can type your question directly in there. And we'll work your questions into our discussion right across the webinar. So we're not dealing with a stack of questions at the end. But if we don't get around to your specific question, we will answer it and answer all outstanding queries in our follow-up email, which will be sent out to all attendees in the coming days. And this email will also have a link to this webinar recording. This is being recorded, and also to the previous webinar we did on community national schools. So let's begin, and let's meet our panel as we say hello and welcome to Rebecca White. Rebecca is the parent of a child who attends Scoil an Glanadh in Ballinskelligs. It's not only a community national school, it's a Gael Scoil community national school, and it's our one and only one at Kerry ETB, and we're very proud of that. Brigitte Sorat is parent to a child attending Lyra Compon Community National School. She joins us. Pia Jennings is also with us. Pia is the parent of a child attending 2 Mile Community National School. That's just outside Killarney. And we're also joined by the principal of Lyra Compon Community National School, Eilish Lyons. You are all very welcome. Now, I will start with an open question, and it's a curious question. It's the same question we'll ask of each of our 3 parents, and that is, can you give us an idea of some of the reasons why you chose a community national school for your child? So, Rebecca, we might start that with you, if you wouldn't mind telling us that and giving your thoughts on that.
John, hi everyone. There's a number of reasons that we decided to send our son to a community national school. You might be able to tell by my accent, I'm not Irish, I'm from Australia, so I don't speak Irish. My partner does have some Irish, but we were both very determined that the Irish language was something that was important for us and our son to nurture. And the school, Scoil an Glanadh, being an Irish immersion school, was something that really appealed to us. The second reason was around the faith-based education. So we felt it was very important for our son to have a holistic approach to his faith and values-based education. And we really like the model that the Community National School has in place for that, with the Goodness Me, Goodness You program. And then the methodology. So living in a small community, we knew parents of students that were in Scoil an Glanadh, and we'd heard wonderful things, but really around the methods that they use, the real interaction, not only on getting that language immersion into play and produced, but also in all subject areas, was something that really appealed to us as well. As a multitude of other reasons, but they're the top 3 for you.
That's great, Rebecca. Thank you. And we'll get into some of the detail around those in the conversation over the next 25, 30 minutes or so. And thank you for that. Brigitte, can I ask you the same question? What were the reasons why you chose a CNS for your child?
Of course. Good evening, everyone. We choose community national schools because my husband and I, we think that religious or non-religious beliefs are just as part of child identities as learning different languages, traditions, heritage, and so on. We are a Hungarian family, so we rely completely on the school, mostly for her to learn English language, because we concentrate on the Hungarian and the Hungarian traditions. and also the Irish culture and heritage, because she was born in Ireland, so she's never going to be fully Hungarian only, and she's never going to be Irish only. So she's between the two. So like for us, the school helps us to develop properly her identity. I think that was the main reason, and we could not accomplish this in a regular school or with the older ethos and models, because she would be just sent out of the classroom.
Yes, because it's a culture change, isn't it? It's a big cultural
Oh
difference.
yes,
And you're
yes,
trying to manage that through schooling. So
yeah,
yeah, you're
yeah.
making that point very clearly. And can I ask you how is your child getting on? How is she getting on within the CNS system?
Oh, very good, I think, very good.
Mm.
So we did not teach her English, just only Hungarian. So when she started preschool, she started to pick up. So what she knows in English, it's herself. That's how she learned from the school, from the teacher, from her community, a bit of TV, of course, but we do not. Of course, we help her if she needs any help, and we only use it. We don't teach her English.
I'm delighted you said TV and not social media. That's very good to hear. Not too much
Yeah,
social
she's
media.
only 6, though.
Yeah, yeah. That's all coming. That's all coming. Thank you, Brigitte. Pia,
Okay.
if I can ask you the same question, just some of the reasons why you chose a CNS.
Yeah, for me, it was, and for my husband, it was very much about the ethos of the school as well. I think we were living in Dublin at the time and we decided to move back to Kerry. And I think one of the things actually in my mind was, oh my goodness, we're going to have no choice in terms of where our child goes to school. And we were kind of surrounded by a lot of different school models in Dublin, and we would have chosen a multi-denominational or a non-denominational school. But I think one of the things primarily for me was I remember being in a small country school, and there were lots of really positive things about it. You know, it was fantastic, the small class size and the individual attention from teachers. But I also really distinctly remember, and at that time it was very unusual, but there were one or two children that opted out of religious education. And I think the school probably saw themselves as quite inclusive, but at the same time, for that half an hour every single day, those kids were told to sit at the back of the class and basically do colouring and not listen to what was happening. And I remember that really sticking with me. And I think conversations that I've had with other parents over the years, they will say, well, it's not the way it used to be. Things are different now. And it's like, well, it kind of is the way it used to be because you are subscribing to a particular ethos. And I think that's why it was just very important for us to find a school that was really inclusive and just very, I suppose, accepting, but also celebrating difference and diversity. Because it's about a lot more than just religion. It's about the kind of values that you, I suppose, project onto children and that you share and teach children from a very young age, and the type of people that they become with that in their minds, you know.
No, absolutely. And they're like sponges at that age. They're absorbing everything, written cues, verbal cues, visual cues. They're watching and absorbing everything. You're absolutely right. And how is your child getting on, by the way, at the CNS?
Oh, fantastically. Yeah, she's so happy there. And she's come out with some really interesting questions.
Do
So
you
I
want to share?
think
Do you want to share any of them?
so she asked me recently, and this it actually comes back to the religion point, but I think the point behind it is much bigger, because one of the things that the Goodness Me, Goodness You program really obviously emphasizes as well is that kind of ability for children to critically think about information and to, you know, evaluate information themselves and make up their own minds about things. So we were actually driving past a church recently, and she asked me, she said, what do people do in church? And I said, well, they pray. And she said, well, what's praying? And I said, well, praying is kind of like, you know, if you make a wish for something, or, you know, you're thankful for something, and then you might go into a church and think about that. And then she said, and who do they pray to? And I said, well, they pray to God. And then she said, and like, is there just one God? And I said, well, you know, some people believe that there's one God and some people don't believe in God at all. And different people believe in different gods, you know. And then she said, and what do you believe? And I said to her, well, what do you think? And she said, well, if there are lots of different types of people in the world, then really it makes way more sense for there to be lots of different gods. And she's just turned 6. So I just thought that that was just such an incredible answer from such a young child. And for me, you know, it's literally a question that has started wars over centuries. And for a 6-year-old to be able to reach a conclusion that for her, the only thing that makes sense is that there are lots of different ways of looking at the world and lots of different beliefs. I think as educators and as parents, we can definitely be proud of, you know, a 6-year-old being able to look at the world like that. Yeah.
No, absolutely. That's an amazing answer. And we're often taught as well to not get into conversations with people you don't know if it's about politics or if it's about religion, because yeah, they're sort of red button topics. But no, that's an amazing question by her.
And her answer was just so
an answer, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of percolated in her mind, and she goes, "No, this is the only thing that makes sense," you know.
Yeah, the
So
cogs
that's
are
really
turning.
lovely.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
cogs are turning. We'll get into that a little bit more later because we do need to talk a little bit more about the Goodness Me, Goodness You program and what it really means. Because we can talk up all this stuff. We can talk at a high level aspects of it, you know. So I never asked you as well, Rebecca, before we move on to the next section, how is your child getting on in the CNS?
He's flying. He's flying. You know, he wouldn't be a child that it takes him a while in big groups to become familiar and more confident. And I think with the smaller class sizes, which is something I didn't mention as one of the reasons, and Pia jogged my memory on that one, just having that familial environment in the school and the small class sizes has really stood to him. His Irish is great. He gets on with kids of all different ages. He learns from them. They learn from him. And, you know, I definitely was a child that if I didn't feel well, I didn't want to go to school. But with him, if he's sick, it's a struggle to keep him home. He just loves going in every day, which is really all you can ask as a parent, that your child is happy in the place that they're going 5 days a week.
100%. And how's your Irish? Is your Irish as good as his?
Oh, not quite. You know, it's getting there. I'm in awe of, you know, we always say kids are sponges. You know, you've mentioned it yourself, and the way that he's able to pick it up just by being immersed in it every day. I unfortunately don't have that luxury at my age, but I'm slowly, my comprehension is improving.
No, that's
day
good to
by
hear.
day.
That's good to
Thank
hear.
you.
We'll skip on to, we're getting a good few questions about this topic. There's two major strands of questions coming through. One is about the Goodness Me, Goodness You program, which we'll deal with in practical terms in a couple of moments. But we're getting a number of queries about the accessibility piece and school transport. So Kerry, like, is a relatively compact county, as we know. It's not New York. Well, it's its own type of New York, of course. But transport can be a huge factor for families when choosing a school. People tend to not forget that sometimes. Eilish, I might just bring you in here. Eilish is principal of Lara Crampon Community National School. Could you describe for us how the CNS transport system works? And also within that, Eilish, if you wouldn't mind explaining who's eligible and who's not.
Yeah. So John, I suppose we've only transferred since September, so it has really changed our school. We were years trying to get a school bus running, but because we were so close to other Catholic schools, a lot of our children didn't qualify. It's your closest Catholic school, but because now we've transferred to CNS, we are now at, let's say, North Kerry. We are the only CNS school in North Kerry. So any child that we are that's closest to us is entitled to it. So we have children now traveling from Listowel to our school because we're their closest, I suppose. That's their choice, that they want to come to our school, a multi-denominational school. So I suppose the best thing, you know, I would say is contact a school if you're interested, because, you know, they will arrange different buses if needs be, if the numbers are there. So to get a bus up and running, you have to have 10 children eligible, which means they must be more than, I think it's 3.2 kilometres from the school, but the distance on the other side doesn't count. But I suppose if they're closer to Killarney, then they would be entitled to the 2-mile school. If they're closer to us, it's to Lara Crampon. So I suppose there's 4 schools in Kerry, so it's between closest. So it has really opened up that for people, that transport, which is huge. I mean, for parents, it is, without the transport, it's very hard with the choice. When parents are working, you need to have the accessibility. So, you know, I think contacting the school, because there is a deadline, I think I think it's April with Bus Air, and that applications must go in. So I suppose it is really important, if you're interested, to make contact. And I suppose the school is the first port to call. If you make contact with the school, at least, you know, we can direct you and where to go then. But it has worked out fantastically. You know, for us, I suppose those children in Listowel, it would have been very difficult for them to come to Larkinpawn, but because the bus is now running every day for them, it's, you know, it's been a game changer, which is great. You know.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So the two main points here are there is a deadline in April, obviously. Bus Éireann are trying to figure out, you know, what the is there enough people to, logistically, but also then just ring the school. So just, you know, pick up the phone.
Best. Yeah, the school will direct you straight away, and you know, you create an account with Bus Éireann and you put in your school of choice. But the school would, you know, if you ring, the school will be able to direct you the right way as well.
No, that's absolutely perfect. Rebecca, can I ask you, your son, I think, does a round trip of about 30K every school day, if I'm not mistaken, right? So that's quite a bit. I was trying to think back when I was doing notes today for this and reading through the material. I'm trying to figure out how far away I was from school. I was very close to primary school, but secondary school was further. But how important was that school transport system in your decision to enroll him in a CNS?
It was very important. We have a local school in our village, so if he had started attending that school, it would have been just over a 5 or 6 minute walk for him to attend that school. But we obviously went with Scolanglana, and having the bus service just makes things that much easier in terms of logistics. It does lengthen out the school day for him, but as far as he's concerned, it's part of his school day and he loves it. You know, the idea of us driving to school strikes horror into him at this stage. He loves the social, he loves being with his friends. And for us, having that ability to pop him on the bus in the morning and be able to go out and go to work and be there in the afternoon, or have another family member be there to collect him off the bus at the end of the day, is fantastic. And as far as I'm concerned, from my perspective, we have the best bus driver in all of Ireland. She's wonderful. It's really important that you feel comfortable and confident in who you're sending your kid off to in a motor vehicle, and we're very lucky at Scolanglana with the service that we have. And there's many children along the route for us that I feel if the bus service wasn't there, they wouldn't be in a position to send their kids to the community national school. So yeah, it's as Eilish said, a game changer, not only for the school but for parents as well.
Yeah, because we're very familiar in Ireland with the bus system for second level, no problem. But the idea of a school transport system for a national school is somewhat different, certainly even in the country, in Kerry, in the countryside. So it's a really good thing. Brigitte, can I ask you about your daughter? I mean, she gets to and from school, I would imagine, on the transport system as well, does she? How long is the day? What time is she up, and what time is she on the bus, and what time is she home?
Oh, I need to drive her every morning,
Oh
or
dear.
we manage her. So because she attended last year at my school, but we have to move from Killarney. And actually we moved where we are now because we could as close as possible to Larkinpawn. So we moved for the school, for the ethos, for this community national school. And so we drive about 18-20 minutes to the school and back. So worth it, all worth it, really.
Of course it is, yeah. And
Yeah,
you were with 2 Mile before, and you've moved. So
yes,
you've experience of 2 community national schools, really.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. And then Pia, for you then, you're living relatively close to 2 Mile School. Is it a self-drive for you, or is it a bus?
Last year, so my daughter is in senior infants, so when she started school, we drove her, but she was highly offended by the fact that we were driving her and she couldn't get the school bus. I think it was just more us being cautious, but she gets the school bus this year. So we're, I think we're just under 8 kilometers from the school, and the school bus picks her up at our gate, drops her to our gate. She leaves home at 8:20. School starts at 8:50. And she's home at 2:45. So it's brilliant.
That is really, really good, and not too long of a day.
No,
Not too
it's
long of a day.
fantastic service.
Brilliant.
And it's really cheap. That's
Yeah.
the other thing. It's really, I think it's 40 or 50 euro for the whole year with bus errands. So it's very, very affordable.
That's
Yeah.
remarkable, isn't it? Yeah, it really is, and money well spent. Just moving on to the Goodness Me, Goodness You curriculum, we've a lot of questions in on that. So we've Cecilia, for example, is the most recent question, missed the last webinar and wants to know what the Goodness Me, Goodness You program is. There's a number of other questions as well in around that. So Eilish, I might just bring you in if that's okay on this around the Goodness Me, Goodness You curriculum. If you just explain to viewers on the webinar what it is, and in practical terms, like how it's taught and how students engage with it. I know there's a lot in that question there, but
Yeah, no, that's fine. I suppose I'm learning myself at the moment, so the program is new to me since we transferred, and it's really exciting. I love it as a teacher. I really love it. So there's different aspects. So I think, like Pia mentioned, the religious side, learning about different faiths is one aspect of it. So the children, would learn there is no one faith that takes precedence. You're celebrating all the different beliefs, faiths within the school, but that's only one aspect of it. So there's really nice. So one aspect is my stories. So it's broken up to my life, relationships. So there's fabulous stories that the kids, but your debate, the kids are discussing it. It's very child-centered. For example, I suppose just to make it in real terms, like last week, the lesson I was teaching with the children was about people we admire. So we start off at a very basic level at home. Who do we admire? Why do we admire them? So it was like mom makes lovely, she makes things for me, or dad did this for me, or Nana. So it started at a smaller level. And then we went up to looking at Nelson Mandela. We were looking at Malala, at who else was Rosa Parks. So we looked at those three people. Why do we admire them? And the kids, were it's just the questions they come up with is just amazing, so we were looking at that, and then we went another level where the kids went researching themselves, people in history, who might we admire them. So they went and they looked up facts, but the kind of the important part was, okay, we know this about them, but why do we admire them? So they come back going, they were really brave, they stood up for someone, and it was just, and I mean, they come in, we had Greta Thunberg, we had soccer players, but like, why did you admire them? Because they encourage other people to play soccer, because they worked hard to get it. So like, it's really deep. It's, they're thinking, it's just, you'd be really surprised what they come out with. So like, that was one lesson we did more recently, but you're looking at the values about respect, the moral, about injustice. So it's just, there's so much in it, and the program is just so well laid out that it's so child-centered. And within all that then is what we call thinking time, where I suppose it's kind of a philosophical side. You're encouraging the kids to question, but also teaching them then how to debate, but respectfully, so that we can all have different beliefs, we can all have different, ideas, and we can debate it, but we have to respect each other's views, which, like in this day and age, that's what should be done. We're teaching the kids something that they'll have for life. So like it's just such a fantastic program. Like, as a teacher, I love it. I just think the kids are so engaged, because really, I mean, as a teacher, you're trying to step back a bit and leaving the kids take the lesson. Like they'll do the debating, that they'll ask each other the questions, and there's huge thought gone into the program, and you can see a lot of work has gone on behind the scenes, and it's constantly, even since September when I have started, the ETB are still, there's new lessons coming on, there's new research going on. So it's really, really current, so like the critical thinking, the debating, the looking at I suppose, the moral side, the ethical side. So I think in years to come, as these kids have went through the program, it'll have a huge effect for them, so hopefully I've kind of explained it.
No, yeah. I remember many years ago listening to a podcast from Olivia O'Leary, who's an RTE broadcaster, and she was of the view that philosophy should be taught at school, and it should be taught at primary school level, and it should certainly be taught at secondary school level, because it teaches people not just how to think and what to think, but how to process thoughts and all of, as you say, the deep stuff. And it's a great pity that that's not done. It's not part of the syllabus, but there seems to be a step towards that with the Goodness Me, Goodness You curriculum. A practical question in from Michelle, who's got in touch with us. She's listening at the minute and watching. Michelle wants to know what a typical day or a week would look like from a curriculum perspective, and maybe does it differ much from a standard, primary school, or are there differences? So that's the question. Typical day or week look like? What does it look like?
So, like, I suppose we have just transferred since September. So, like, our day has not, we're still do the exact same curriculum as we did last June, last May. So we're the Department of Education, we still have our inspectors to come in. So you have your core subjects, your English, art, maths, history, geography, science, music, drama, we've all of that. The only difference really in that way is that instead of doing our faith program, which last year would have been the Catholic program, we do our goodness me, goodness you. But I suppose the difference as well, I suppose, is our goodness me, goodness you program, fine, we have our 20 or half an hour we do every day, but it's interweaved into the school day. It's just that whole, I suppose, that community aspect, the children, welcoming the children, like it's just part of our school day. But as regard to the academic side, it is the exact same. All our core subjects are the exact same. It's just instead of doing our faith program, we're now doing the
that's interesting. So
program.
Yeah.
So,
no, it does. So the day or the week, I guess, Michelle, is the same, but there's a sort of an ethos shift in a way, driven by goodness me,
the same time for literacy, numeracy, for all of that is the exact same.
Okay. Can I hear from our parents? This is an open question to Rebecca or Brigitte or Pia. Have you noticed, and we've already, I think, dealt with this a little bit, maybe with Pia, who told us a very sweet story about her child, and have you noticed differences in your own children around the goodness me, goodness you curriculum, different ways of thinking, observations, comments, unusual statements around, that you wouldn't have expected them to make before? That's an open question, so feel free to jump in, Rebecca, Brigitte, or Pia. So again, yeah.
From my my experience, as my son's become older in the school, so he's in second class at this year, the questioning that he might come home with over the dinner table, or if something's being discussed, they've become comparatively deeper and more reflective than they were when he was younger. We had a spate of time where we did get a lot of questions around religion, because his grandparents, his Irish grandparents, are practicing Catholics and would attend church, and he's been in and out at a few moments of his life. So he is noticing. You can see him noticing the difference between Nanny and Granddad's house to our house in the things that we do and the things that we believe, and it's quite easy to have those discussions with him from that perspective. Then in the school itself, for such a small school, it's a very multicultural population. There's a lot of households where both parents are not Irish, or there's like our own household, one parent is and one parent isn't. So there's been a very rich diversity to draw from, amongst his pals, but I'm assuming within the curriculum, within the classroom itself, that he can come home and say, oh, X, Y, and Z, they're from Brazil, or they're from the United States, and we learned about, Thanksgiving, and we learned about Diwali, and did you know, this is what we get a lot, did you know that? And I feel like he's exposed to a lot of different ideas and different thoughts and different customs, which has been really lovely.
Yeah, and that's your child holding up a mirror to you and saying, did you know this? Do you understand this? There's a pride baked into that, isn't there? It's lovely. It's almost like they're super proud about the things that they're discussing and learning. Rebecca, any thoughts from you in terms of how the goodness me, goodness you curriculum relates to your child? Anything you've noticed? Hate putting you on the spot.
Right. In terms for me again,
yeah.
Or am I passing down?
Sorry, Pia, I should say, not Rebecca.
Yeah.
Pia.
Okay. I'm sorry. I think of something else.
Anything? Pia, for yourself, anything that you've noticed about your child, stemming from the goodness me, goodness you curriculum?
Yeah, so my daughter is obviously, she's a few years younger than Rebecca's son. So we're having a big thing in the house at the moment about everybody being equal and being treated equally, which is making for some interesting discussions because she's 6.
It's dangerous. It's dangerous.
But it's also actually really lovely. So sometimes she wants an explanation for everything. And if you give her an explanation, then she's usually okay with it. But I think it's this thing that, you know, we as parents often do. We just say, well, that's just the way it is. And we don't actually justify it with a more in-depth answer. And she's going through a phase now where that's not really good enough for her. And sometimes as a parent, that can be frustrating. But overall, it's actually really, really good to see, because it's testament to the values that are being instilled in her, and the confidence also that she has to be able to question, and to be able to question us when she's not happy with something, you know. So that's definitely one thing that I've noticed. And the other thing that I've noticed, because 2 Mile is obviously quite a small school, but I think again this really reflects the values of, you know, inclusion and diversity within the CNS school system, is that she mixes a lot with older and younger children, and it's a really, really nice thing to see. And it's something that struck me straight away when we visited the school for the first time, that lots of different kids from different classes play together, and it's a very kind of community-centered school from the children's perspective as well. They have their own little community, and it's the whole age span, which is just really, really nice to see.
That's absolutely lovely. And yeah, you're both stories are indicating here about children, young children that are delighting in learning, and they're proud of it, and they want to have these curious conversations. And it's not that they're testing their parents, but in a way, they're sort of like they're curious about, well, how does your value system compare with mine? And I love that. That's really lovely. I love those conversations. Brigitte, what about you? Have you noticed any impact on your child's understanding of values, respect, inclusion?
It's not as straightforward with a 6-year-old, but
Yeah.
actually for me, that I did not notice any problem, which is very good. Her only cries about like, oh, it's the morning, I'm very tired. Or oh, can I stay at home because I want to play with you? So nothing out of ordinary, just normal kids stuff that you need to do homework or you need to go to school, and nothing major,
But probably it's coming
which
though.
indicates
Yeah.
that she's included and
Yes.
fully
Yes.
incorporated. So yeah, I noticed that there is nothing wrong, actually. It's very, very good. And I just also can repeat, like Pia and Rebecca before, in these schools, it's really a multi-cultural, multi-age little societies, and they learn every day how to navigate while they fully embracing their self, their own identity, and they learn to respect others. And I noticed that my daughter, for her, nobody is strange, no hairstyle, no dress up, nothing is strange. Everything is very normal. She just says her own opinion, kind of, oh, her hair is very nice. Must have been very difficult to do that. And just very, very respectfully. So yeah, it's absolutely fantastic, I think. And it really feels that it becomes her nature to live this way, which is very important, I think. This is how we all should be, I think.
That's a great sentence. It becomes her nature to be this way. I love that. That's really well put. And that brings us as well into the whole, because we're touching on it quite a bit, the religious education and the inclusivity, and the multi-D or the multi-denominational piece. But people are listening to this webinar probably tonight, and they're looking at the community national schools idea, and we're talking about how great it is. But for many families and many parents, this is quite a big change. Like, they're listening in and they may be a little bit unsure about sending their child to a multi-denominational school. Rebecca, if I could just go to you, what would you say to reassure parents who are listening to this webinar now? And like, we're talking about all the good stuff, but for some of them, it's a big change. Like this, there's a bit of fear there maybe. What would you say to reassure them if you could say something to them?
From a curriculum and learning point of view, Eilish, you put it very well, that nothing is different in terms of the school day and what they learn and the subjects they learn, and probably even the way they learn it. Very interactive, very engaging. Around that faith-based piece, the inclusivity is very important, that the children are learning about all and everything, and the differences between, you know, different people in different countries and even within their own classes. But there still is that space for families who are still practicing a Catholic religion, and that is still offered as part of the school. It's just not happening in the school day. So I can only talk on behalf of the school my son is in. For those children whose families are practicing and want to prepare their children for the sacraments, for communion, that is still offered. A teacher delivers those classes outside of the school day. We personally don't take part in those, so I don't know the logistics around how long they are or how often they are, but say my son's class, the students that took part in their communion, we still went and we enjoyed it with them, and they were prepared for that throughout the school years that they needed to be for that. So I think everything will still happen for you. It just looks a little bit different in perhaps the setup of the logistics and the day.
No, that's
but yeah, but just the wonderful benefits of a community school really just enhance the experience, no matter what faith or background that you're coming from.
No, that's a really good answer. And we have touched there in your answer, you mentioned about the sacraments, about communion and confirmation, and we'll be dealing with that near the end of the webinar. So we've got a number of queries in about that. A few other streams of questions that have come in during the webinar are around a practical worry that some people have that their child won't receive what they refer to as a comprehensive faith-based education. So Eilish, could I bring you in on that there? I mean, could you talk in practical terms about how a CNS and how the CNS model accommodates different beliefs in a practical way?
Well, I suppose like one aspect of, there is a great emphasis within the Goodness Me, Goodness You as kind of celebration. So I suppose on a practical sense, the parents that are within our school, you want, whatever their beliefs are, you want that respected within the school and celebrated. So, you would see, what beliefs are within our school, the parents, for them to let the school, know. And then at different times of the year, depending what celebrations are coming up for each family, it will be acknowledged. Same way as Christmas will be acknowledged, and like all the other festivals. So it's inclusion of all, and not just when we say religious, it could be, there are families who don't have a faith, but there's something is really important. It could be heritage, it could be something within their family. So the kids come in, they celebrate that and they tell us about that. So there's no one excluded. Whereas, when you are just purely Catholic school, it is very difficult. Even as a teacher, you're spending a lot of time preparing. There are kids that are at the back of the class and are kind of left out. Whereas I see a huge difference this year where the kids are coming in and they're saying, oh, I did this the weekend, and they went to the mosque, they went to, they'd be telling us about it. And it's just, I suppose I teach the older kids and they're so enthusiastic, they're so inquisitive, and they want to know. And I think that's the way it should be, because knowledge is power. It's good for respect as well, building up for the kids. So, I suppose, like, I'm a parent myself, and I suppose my belief is that I should be the one, with the faith. If I'm passing on a faith to my child, that's my responsibility. But I suppose the good thing is it's enhanced by the school then, because the kids come in and tell us about it, and it can be acknowledged, it can be celebrated. So I suppose that's a huge benefit with the Goodness Me, Goodness You. There's no exclusion. It's completely inclusion for everyone, no matter your faith, your heritage, it's all celebrated. Just even because we would have, many different cultures, religions within our school, and it's fantastic. But even, the kids, when even we're doing Irish, the kids will come and go, we have children who are Polish, we're different, and they say, oh, that looks like a Polish word, and we'd be looking it up then, oh, what's it in Polish, and what's it in French, and so they get so excited, so it's that kind of an inclusion that, you're looking at all the languages the children are speaking as well, and you're trying to bring that into the day, that they are able to show that off their heritage at home. So I suppose that's kind of what we're aiming for with that, to include everyone.
No, that's very well put. And I know, Pia, as well, just to maybe round off this section with you, I know you're very passionate about what it means, again, in practical terms, to send a child to a multi-denominational school. It's not just about valuing or comparing or contrasting different religions. It kind of goes beyond that, doesn't it, Pia?
Yeah, definitely. I think we can get a little bit caught up actually with the religious aspect of it, which is obviously a very important part of the ethos of community national schools. But I feel like there's often an emphasis by people when they're thinking about community national schools and they don't really fully understand what they're about. There's an emphasis on the religion part and a focus maybe on what they might be losing as opposed to all the really amazing things that you gain by sending your child to community national school. And that piece about, you know, because the first thing that people will often say to me is, well, what about communion and confirmation? And it's kind of like, well, what about it? Like, you can still do it. Nobody is preventing you from it, you know. But I think we have to try and think more long term in the sense of what kind of young people and adults do we want to raise in our society, and how do we best prepare them for the challenges that they're going to face in life. And we can see all the things that are happening around the world at the moment, and how do we shape and help to guide individuals that can withstand, you know, all the hatred and the horrible things that are out there, and fight against that and be inclusive and be respectful. And as Brigitte said, that it's just part of their nature, you know. And if we want to see change in our society, we have to also be brave and make changes and give our children different options maybe to what we had ourselves.
That's really well put. You're very passionate about it. It's brilliant, and you're absolutely right. Daphne's come in with a question here. I think it's kind of been asked as well. Maybe Eilish, you might come in here. Eilish, are children taught about all different religions, or just those represented by people in the class? That's from Daphne there.
There isn't, I suppose, a complete list of every religion you would cover. Your priority really is celebrating the religions that are in the class, but it would come up, you know, I mean, you know, you still would have the autonomy to cover other religions as well. But I suppose your priority is, you know, celebrating who's within your school, but you know, you would learn about other religions as well.
Mm-hmm. And can I ask you as well before we finish this section? You're obviously very passionate about, you know, because a lot of the time with a school, it's about the principal, it's about the staff, but the principal brings a lot of the vision and the personality and the values and the energy and the culture of the school. Can you kind of tell me yourself, Eilish, as a principal, what sort of things are you deeply passionate about in terms of children's education?
Well, you know what? The kids' happiness coming in that door of the school every day is the most important, because I really am a firm believer in the learning will only happen if the children are happy. So I suppose I always, and you know, I'm very lucky, I have such fantastic staff as well. Their well-being and them coming in with a smile on their face, and once they are happy coming in, the learning happens. But if the children, you know, are anxious, or if they it just you know, I really am a firm believer, like it has to be all about the kids, about them being happy learning, about them building up good relationships with the kids in the classroom and in with the staff. So you know, I hope, you know, we create that would be, you know, the big thing for me in the school, because the learning will always come once that's in place. But you know, you can do all the teaching, but if the kids aren't happy sitting at the desks, it won't happen. And I think just like the goodness me, goodness you, it really enhances that. It's just, you know, I really am so impressed with the program, and I think it helps, you know, build up that foundation as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, a lovely comment in here from Mohammed. He just wants to explain his satisfaction about the education in Lara Crampon. He finds his children are very easily integrated. Teachers are very helpful and professional. Good things always happen in smaller classes. That helps kids to feel more comfortable. Transport is a very important piece. And he just wanted to thank everybody at Lara Crampon, at Kerry ETB, and also he thinks it's very important to encourage parents to enrol their children in a CNS, or at least consider it. That's Mohammed, and Mohammed has children in your school. So again, that just popped into the message there. So it's lovely. It's lovely to just get that. That's not filtered. It's not set up. It's real. So it's lovely. Can I just a final word to our wonderful parents who've given us loads of time tonight and have come on to this webinar. Can I just ask you all, a bit like the start, the same question for all of you. If there's a parent listening to this now and they're not so sure about what to do next, what would your advice be to them? Brigitte, could I start with you?
I think, just as Pia said, I really just can repeat, it's a great opportunity to provide a model to our children. We never really learn how to operate in this multicultural society. We are kind of forced into it. That's what history brought on us. basically. But has anything ever really worked by force? Not really. You need the knowledge, as Iris said. You need the knowledge in order to love and respect something. This is the only way. This is the only way how we could build something. And it's a great opportunity because they learn about all the other religion, really, and the community is huge, especially in Lara Crompana. And we only just tasted it, really,
Yeah,
but it's huge.
sure.
Yeah, it's a great experience, really, really.
That's well put. Thank you, Brigitte. Rebecca, what would you say to someone who's listening now and they're kind of thinking, "Oh, I'm not so sure. There's lots of pros, there's lots of cons." What would your advice be to them?
I think my biggest piece of advice, or first piece of advice, is go and visit the school. The schools have open days. If you can't get in on an open day, make contact with them, and they'd love to have you down and see what it's like. At Scolanglana, we went to an open day before the school started, but you're going in at the school time. You're seeing how it's operating. You're seeing the kids in action. You're bringing your child in who can, integrate for 30 minutes or an hour while you talk to the principal or the teacher, and really just go down and get a sense of what it's like yourself, because we can tell you wonderful things, which are all true, obviously, but there's nothing like going in and seeing it yourself. And if it's something that you're considering, that would be what I'd recommend.
Yeah, what great practical advice. And finally, to yourself, Pia, what would you say to the parent who's listening to this right now, who's not so sure about what to do next? What would you say to them?
I would say, just as Rebecca had said as well, come to an open day. I know 2 Mile have an open day. I think it's on the 8th of March. But also, I would really encourage you, and this is something that we did because we were not that familiar with the Community National School model when we first heard about it. Have a look at the Goodness Me, Goodness You program. It's freely available online. It's very accessible, and you can see just the different strands to it and what's involved. And also, I think, don't be afraid. We're not that different. It's just maybe certain elements of the ethos, but the rest is all the same. So yeah, that's my final parting word.
Well, thank you so much, and we'll come back again to maybe a little bit before the end. But thank you so much. There's some great insights in there, and that just finishes that section. I'd like to bring in Con Moynihan at this point. Con is the schools coordinator at Kerry ETB, and he's going to join us just for a final wrap up on Community National Schools. Hi, Con.
Thanks, John.
Just before we get into, I suppose, summarising for our viewers the strengths that you would see of the CNS model. There's a question in about provisions made for communion and confirmation. Laura got in touch during the webinar. So how are provisions made for communion and confirmation children, those who wish to take the sacraments?
Okay, John, I suppose, look, we meet Bishop Ray Brown here in Kerry regularly, and people from the Diocese of Kerry, and sacrament preparation is always on the agenda. So the only difference is sacrament preparation happens after school, but the school buildings are freely available. So people come in from the diocese or from the parish. So we would link in with local parish priest, whoever needs to get involved. I suppose, as Elise pointed out, it's just that half an hour a day is given to all religions and none. Like 11% of the population in Kerry, the last census said there were no religion. So there's that celebration of all religion goes on for that half an hour a day, and then the specific sacramental preparation goes on after school. Actually, incidentally, I'm thinking just now, one of our schools last year where a number of the students were getting confirmation, the entire school population went down to support them to the local church. So it was a celebration for the entire school. And that would not be, I think, uncommon, because I think that atmosphere, I think I visit all the schools, and the thing I notice is the atmosphere and the inclusion and everyone in it together and supporting each other. And that goes right through the religion strand as well, to be quite straight.
Yeah, and you've answered the question, really. That's really what it's about, isn't it? That's a key part of it, is the inclusion. We talk about diversity, but really it's the inclusion piece, isn't it? We opening up people's minds to think that little bit differently and make inclusion part of the way you are. Not something that you're reading about or being taught. It's
absolutely
part and parcel of the way you are. On a practical note, Con, before we finish up, how can parents go about setting up an in-person visit? There have been 1 or 2 questions on that this evening. We'd be telling people, look, make a call, ring the principal, ask the question, talk to the parents. People are really kind and they want to help because this is a new thing and we're all kind of in it together. But how would parents go about setting up an in-person visit to one of the Kerry ETB Community National Schools, Con?
I think you met one of our principals tonight, Alicia, on the thing. So I mean, and likewise, Maura down in Tehilla, and we got down in Scotland, in Lana, and in 2 Mile School. People who really want to take those calls and to show people around and chat to them. So the simple thing, I suppose, just pick up the phone and make a connection, because as I said, like we've got the county covered at this point. You're not depending where you live. You could be near North Kerry, Lyra Compone. You could be near Killarney with 2 Mile down in South Kerry, in Scotland Lana, and then Tehilla over on the other side. So I would say just make the call and get there. For me, I suppose tonight, like that inclusion piece really shone through. The small class sizes, a strong teaching environment. I was kind of struck that, you know, I suppose in the past, you know, you regurgitated the answer to the teacher, the answer the teacher gave, where in CNS schools, that reflective space where pupils can question old assumptions and come to their own conclusions. That philosophy piece that you spoke about, John, that Olivia O'Leary, I think, spoke about a long time ago. I heard her speak it as well. I think that's the big difference, that critical thinking, that emotional well-being, that appreciation for different perspectives. And for me, that's really encapsulates what is going on in our 4 wonderful community national schools that we're so proud of here in Kerry ETB. So that's all I want to say, and I want to thank you, John, for doing a lovely job in terms of facilitating a nice conversation. Obviously, to Elise, to Pia, to Rebecca, and to Brigitte as well, who was on our call there. It's been lovely, and thanks to Lisa in the background for making all this happen tonight as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. You've just done lots of the next job I had, Con. Thank you so much. And a reminder, I guess, to everybody that there's a follow-up email going to be sent to all people who register for this webinar and all attendees in the coming days. Lisa will send that out, and they'll have contact details on there for all community national schools in Kerry, information about how to arrange a personalised visit, and also a link to our last CNS promotional video and webinar, which featured a principal, teacher, and a parent, and also this webinar. So my sincere thanks to our panel. You were absolutely wonderful, Rebecca, Brigitte, and Pia. Brigitte had to go because of work. I'd like to thank Eilish Lyons as well, principal of the newest community national school in Kerry ETB out at Lyra Compone, a place I cycled through many times when I was building my fitness. And I can tell you there is no better place than Lyra Compone to build your fitness. Hills like you've never seen.
Hills,
unrelenting and relentless, yeah. And also, Con, thanks to yourself and thanks to Lisa Flaherty, who researched and produced this webinar. And finally, thanks to you for attending. I hope and I trust you found it useful. Until next time, Slán.